Or did have it? No, we haven't. So, no more. We'll just wait till after. We are now in session for the July 9th Public Library Board meeting. Do we have, can't tell, can Zan get on now?
Yes, Zan is on.
Okay,
Zan,
sorry Zan, I can't see.
Can the folks on the line hear us all right? We're just kind of in a different acoustic room.
Yeah, you guys sound great. You can't see me?
Oh, we can see you.
I just can't. I don't have my glasses on.
Oh, I'm here. I'm in the Bethlehem Public Library doing some, detective work. See what we can aspire to be. Just kidding. I know we're recording. Just kidding. But I'm on here till like 6:30.
Okay, good. Public comment? Anyone on? Let's go this. Treasurer's report and approval of expenditures.
The Finance Committee recommends to the board that we approve payment of bills for $91,644.66.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Good. Anything else for now? Then we have our consent agenda. This month's consent agenda includes approval of the minutes of the meeting held May 14th.
With the correction, I should have changed it to June 11th. So my apologies for
I
that.
just
So,
read it off. Sorry, that's me too.
no,
And you told me. Okay. The administration committee report, the building committee report, the outreach committee report. There is no Upper Hudson report and no president's report this month. So I make the motion that we approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Now, our regular agenda does have TRW here, but I'm gonna go seeing none. They're supposed to come, they have been confirmed.
Mark Thaler is coming today. So I spoke with Cheryl. So gave the information. So I don't know any more than that.
And I have not heard anything to contrary to that either. So we did tell them we were here versus.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, yes, those are very clearly as of yesterday. We pre-warned them yesterday. In that case, we will move on to the tax cap. There is a document in everybody's folder. Oh, we'll speak of, let's just do the double.
Let's do the tax cap while we're not that far.
Oh, why don't we
Do you
just,
want me to put this out?
so while he's setting up, we do, yearly, you want to set up or wait? You want to go and you want to,
Let's go.
you're in charge, Emily. We'll wait, we're gonna wait. We're waiting. I know you're gonna get out.
Doesn't seem like there's a lot of setup. So. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, I didn't know where I was on the agenda.
You're actually right on time. First on the agenda.
Since I had everyone, I'll introduce myself. I'm Mark Taylor from Taylor Brad Wilson, and I'm a person and Christian study and drawings for the HAC project. I figured I'd also where you're at the moment. And
Do we need to?
Hey, Zan, can you hear Mr. Thaler?
I cannot hear at all. I wonder, Alex, could you call me and I could like put it
Yeah.
on speaker or something? Or yeah, I'm sorry. I have no idea who is speaking.
Yeah, I'll call you right now.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hi.
Yes.
Just moving it so that way you can see them.
So Mark, if you can say a few words, see if Roseanne can hear you now.
Sure. Hi, I'm Mark Thaler from Thaler Riley Wilson, and just wanted to review where we were at with the drawings and everything else on the HVAC project. So I'm not sure if I should be looking that way or someplace else. Okay. So basically, at the moment, we have drawings that will be finished and ready to go to SHPO for their review in a couple of weeks. So mid-July, will be sent off to State Historic Preservation Office for their review. They usually have a 1 month turnaround, and then a couple of weeks after that, which will basically be about Labor Day, we'd have everything ready to go out to bid. If you guys are ready to go out to bid, or if you want to push it off until some other time, we can schedule it for that. So the project original budget was $1.275 million for the whole project. The current budget estimate for the work is $1,327,000. So not quite, $50,000 above where the original budget was. Obviously, we'll see when the bids come in exactly where they come in. As part of the initial concept design study, we investigated everything, looking into systems for the whole building, what would basically work, costed it out. Basically, what you can afford to do within your budget right now is to provide cooling only in first floor circulation area and the second floor reading room area. So that's what that $1.327 million budget estimate is related to. And I will show you where some of those devices are going to be working. We had looked at a couple of other alternates for a time. There was some thought that there might be some additional grant funding or whatever. We began to look at additional cooling for the staffs and the second floor gallery as a sort of temporary situation. Those together would have been about $500,000 more, and it was decided not to pursue those. So we are not pursuing those alternates. So everything that has been done to date has really looked at allowing us in the future to tie into a geothermal system that the city would have, so that there would be chilled water going down the street, and we would tie into that when that is appropriate when you're smoking it. So systems that are being put in, some of that includes piping for the future. So they're not all of it, but where it would be inaccessible in the future, like in the cabinetry and things like that. We're going to run some heating piping as well, so that in the future, those pipes can be connected when you expand the system. So in the meantime, the existing steam heat system that is in place will continue. So you will continue to have, the same boiler, same radiators that are providing heat. remain the same. So, just to show a few things, probably easiest. Start in the basement, I guess. So, in the basement, we'll locate a couple of pieces of equipment that will serve the first floor. Because on the first floor, where we have circulation desk right here, we didn't really want to have units, water units upstairs there. And we have the window and everything else. What we've decided to do is locate a unit in the basement that will feed up to some floor grills that were already existing in the floor. And that will serve the main circulation desk area. And then there'll be additional units. One, as you come in the building, there's currently a radiator that's back behind some stacks. In the very next bay, there'll be a new fan coil unit that will also be right there behind us. And it'll be centered on, that's a marble wall with marble pilasters, so it'll be centered in the middle of that. At the other end, just as you go into the stacks, there'll be a third unit, and that'll be located right here. Before you go into the stacks, there's a lock-up doorway that goes into a meeting room beyond. We'll put it right here so that if there's ever any intention to open that doorway up. The unit that is serving the area behind the circulation desk will actually be a unit that will be mounted in the break room. So it'll be located sort of in this area here, basically soffit down a piece of the ceiling, and there'll be a unit that this will then be ducted to go over to the floor grills that exist. And the other unit that will be located in this room, that will also be mounted up at the ceiling, ducted out, and just simply shown here. We have to provide ventilation, air, and so we'll be getting that from the windows that are out here.
So wait, sorry, just pardon my ignorance of HVAC systems. Those two windows have to be taken out, modified to provide intake?
Correct.
Got it.
One is an exhaust, and one is an.
Thank you.
And those are at the basement location. The reading room area, we will be providing new units that will be up against the wall where the windows are. Right now, that has a very decorative wood-based cot paneling. That will, in essence, be replicated and moved out. So we're going to have an area that's basically boxed out, about 8 deep, with grills in the top and grills at the bottom. But the appearance of that, is very much going to look just like the paneling that's there currently. Everything will be mounted out in front, so it'll be self-supporting. So install piping and everything. These units are a 5-pipe system. They have a hot and cold supply and return, and there's also a condensate line. So each of those lines, by the time you get installation, is about 3 inches or so in diameter. All of those will be mounted back. It will be mounted to the existing paneling. You won't see the existing paneling. There'll be new paneling out here that will basically limit that. But the other thing that will happen with those units is they'll be swinging out doors. So if you ever need to work on any of them, all they do is open it up and it's ready.
And they project about like 18 inches from the existing surface, give or take?
These doors are just over 3 feet.
Gotcha, thank you.
When they're open.
When they're open, gotcha.
When they're closed,
When they're closed, this is only about 18 inches.
Okay, thank you. Thankfully, that's a tremendous one.
1.9.5.
Gotcha, thank you.
Also, for ventilation, we're bringing the line up through the stacks from the archive room that's on the first floor. That line will be coming up in the corner of that space, comes up through the stacks. We have to take the shelves out of 2 areas of stacks. We don't have to modify the metalwork for the stacks. So the duct will come right up in between. That comes up. There'll be a coil unit that will be located up above the highest stacks. So up here near the roof access ladder. So you'll never, it's not going to be in the way of anything there. And that is going to have a grill similar to one that's already there from the design. We'll just make a symmetrical one opposite that. So the only thing that you will see in the second floor reading room, you have these 2 grills, one of which is be new over here, and then a new panel location for the units underneath the windows on the side. To gain access to these units, there's piping that is going to come up. Basically, it comes across, there's a wood chiller that will be located behind the building. Then we have piping that's going to come across, similar to where piping is already coming across the ceiling of the basement. To feed upstairs, it comes across, feeds the unit that's by the entryway, and then it comes up into the workroom. That's right here. So here's the circulation passages. There's a storage room right here. The piping is going to come up in this corner. You have to get it so that it is clear of the window casing that's here. It will affect, there's some, not built in, but they're pretty much wall to wall shelving units that are there. So one of those is going to end up getting mixed to be able to bring the piping roof up. And that'll basically be boxed in. And it has to be big enough for 5 3-inch diameter pipes. And then that's going to come in right behind the door. This will also, again, be boxed out right here in the corner. But it doesn't have to go very high. So as opposed to bringing that all the way up to the ceiling, you could do something that just is at windowsill height. Pipes would come up, pass through the wall into the casing that we're creating up here, travel behind the units and serve those units. The existing radiators and other units are there to heat the building. So they can be taken out at a future.
I'm sorry, what's the last sentence, could you repeat?
I said the existing radiators and other heating units that are there will remain in place. They can be removed in the future when the whole system is upgraded.
Thank you.
So I think that's sort of the overview of where we're at with everything. So I know that you've gotten some information on the grants that you guys have gotten. I think we're missing one that we're still looking for what that language is. That'll be incorporated into the front end of the project manual, which states all those issues. So that's just something that will be finished in the next month or so before our annual goes up.
So none of this goes up onto the roof? There's
Nothing on the roof. The only piece of equipment that'll be outside will be the children, and they'll be away.
And the children, a large piece of equipment, approximately,
Approximately yay high and, like 6 by 6. We have had some discussion whether that wants to be fenced off or just that. Not showing any fence at the moment. Could be desired.
Let's have one logistical thing in the reading room, to the left and right of the windows, the square next to the wall. Those are fan units, yeah, that bring in air. I would imagine those will be plugged up, got rid of something or other because they're open to the elements unless the wintertime probably put something over them. I have no idea. Now that I think about it, I don't remember anything over them, so maybe they close up or something.
They're not closed up.
Yeah.
They do bring in air.
Yeah.
We haven't decided to close them up at this point. It's not included to close them up. We're sort of only providing, minimal ventilation at the moment. So from the standpoint of, what code we like, especially if we're closing up all the windows and air conditioning, I really want to continue those until we have a system of operation.
That would make sense. So I just wanted to, because it wasn't in any of the presentations, wasn't sure what we were doing with those.
No, I mean, they're not very sightly, I understand, but
They talk about it on that. I mean, we have good heat. Nobody complains that it's freezing in the reading room.
Very true.
So it's open, so that's, fine. And
when the building was originally, I think when the building was originally designed, it was relied at least in part on operable windows, is that correct?
operable windows, we also had operable skylights.
Right,
as well,
so,
which
ventilation was sort of
was much improved.
part of the plan.
outside air. So the current project, because of cost concerns, we weren't able to do a full HVAC system. We focused on the air conditioning part. And so the ventilation is partly being modified as part of the project.
Yeah, I said it.
The only thing, go ahead.
I have one I'll say tangentially related question, and it's technical about the work, and it's not, as in the course of the project, has the materials testing done or assessment of existing
We
materials?
actually, so we have that in our contract. We are going to have that done. What we had asked for at the last meeting was any previous reports that may have been prepared so that we could have that to start from.
Sure, and
We're
have
only
you
going
received
to
anything?
obviously, what's that?
Have you received anything to date from,
Not from you guys.
okay,
To do that. So if it was told of us that there was thinking that there had been one previously done.
I thought so.
So if that is true, I'd like to have that before I have somebody come in and do additional testing.
Christian, do you know of any hazardous materials testing that has previously been done?
Yeah, all I know is that, in the reading room,
Are
it
there
has been done.
reports? Are there
I don't know about reports, so I can look into that, but, yeah.
So that's, if we have reports, I think that's what we want to share out. If we have no reports, then I think we have to start from
And it was
scratch.
done fairly recently, it seemed like in the last 5 years or something.
Right.
And because in 22, they did some repairs in the reading room, I think that's when it was. And so there was an assumption that because there was asbestos in the plaster, that it's probably in the entire, in the plaster, something like that.
So
But
is there a report that says that?
I can look into it and find out if there's a report.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That would be one.
Yeah.
Because, we're only going to have them test the specific areas that are going to get disturbed. But some of those areas have already been tested.
Mark, another question. For the areas where you're running through to get access, any provision to add additional units later? Since you're already running chases through those other areas?
Sure.
With the access, we're asking about.
You're running back piping to get access through other spaces in the building. Is there any provision to connect, to add additional cooling units in those spaces, should we desire?
So what we're doing is, again, just from a cost standpoint, we're providing piping in everywhere that is going to be concealed, that you won't be able to get to in the future. So for instance, where piping is coming up in this corner over here and there's a chase, we're going to put the heating piping in as well, even though we're not putting any heat in there yet. But all you'll have to do at the basement in the future is just tie in.
Okay, so, but also, since we're coming up, for instance, in the flag room, would we have the option at some point to air condition the flag room?
This is air conditioning the flag room. I'm sorry, not the flag room. This is air conditioning the reading room.
Yeah, but since we're coming through the flag room for access, or similarly, the basement, since we're running ductwork and chases through the basement, do we have the is there any option to add on later?
So we've looked at pretty much all different areas of how you would potentially get to any area in the building. So in our initial investigative days, how would you do all those other spaces that aren't getting done? So everything is meant to sort of build upon that. So what we're doing now, we'll have all the connections so that you can run the additional piping to wherever. Specifically for the flag room, we have looked at an option where we were, as part of the gallery spaces, we were talking about providing some mini splits as sort of a cheaper solution to, provide something in that space. Ultimately got pulled back. In that system, we could have addressed the flag room at the same time. If these never got done, you could do a tap off of that pipe and do a paint coil unit right there. If you set aside.
Okay.
Any other questions from the?
Do you mind if I take some pictures?
Pardon?
Do you mind if I take some pictures for my colleague on the line?
No, absolutely. I mean, if you want to keep these, you can keep these too. They're a work in progress.
Of course, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much for walking us through this. This was very enlightening. I really appreciate it.
Are there any places in the building that you guys might not know where they are? For those of you who don't go down into the basement very often, things like that?
So Mark, question is, are we delinquent on anything with you guys right now? What do we need to be doing? Okay,
Christie, so.
Today's results.
Approximately 50,000.
I don't, so have to double check.
We had some free numbers. Would be good.
That's appreciated.
Person, did you have some other issues that you wanted to talk about or deal with?
There was a conversation about we had an original schedule as part of the proposal, and where are we now compared to that schedule?
So, with the original schedule, we had said between the investigative phase and design phase, it's going to take about 10 months. In essence, it's taken just about 12. We did some additional investigation for some of these alternates that we then sort of backtracked on. We were talking about different grants that we might do, but we're not far off track. I mean, we're a couple months from where we originally said when we submitted.
And I'm sorry.
All of these are just approved today.
Okay. Anything else from you?
I think you're good.
is there anything else you need from us in terms of communications or
What's that?
anything else you need from us in terms of communications or scheduling?
To the
At
specific
this
point.
point, we're pretty much done. We're going to have the submission that we're going to do to SHPO. Obviously, person, Christiane, get those policies and make any comments and if SHPO comes back with any other comments, we can include those. That's why we figured that would be a couple weeks after. Be ready for bid if you guys are ready for bid.
I got one more thought. You said that you're going to be doing asbestos testing, or going to have asbestos testing done.
Yes.
When would that happen, and when would we know if there are any schedule or any budget impacts from that?
Well, we're going to have that done hopefully within the next few weeks here, as if you have a report, that's great. We didn't want to do it too early because we didn't know what the design was going to be. So we didn't want to doing stuff all over the building, which we would have if we had done it at the very beginning of the project. So it's quite limited in terms of where they're going to be testing. But we'll know that. Usually it takes them about a month after their testing to get all the results back and everything else.
I just worry if we get permission from SHPO, and we would do permitting with the city after that.
Yeah, I mean, so the permitting, oftentimes, we just have a contractor pull the permit.
Okay.
I don't know why, in fact, a lot of municipalities don't even want you pulling a permit unless you're a licensed contractor. So usually it gets left to the contractor.
Okay. I'm a little concerned that we may get an approval from SHPO and then we find out, oh, we've got a huge bust because of the hazardous materials. I hope we don't have a budget bust because of hazardous materials.
There's very limited opening stuff. And we're talking half a dozen, less than a dozen openings.
Fasteners, or anything being fastened to the existing walls that are the casework that's attaching to plaster, attaching to wood.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff, yes, there's things where it's attached at the plaster wall.
Those are all
Yeah.
potentially concerned. So I look forward to hearing the results of the investigation and what the potential budget impacts might be of that.
We may have a schedule issue with August.
Do you have thoughts about the vintage of the building and the preference of hazardous materials of work of that era?
Well, plaster is obviously a big one that you have to be concerned about. And it sounds like you've already found hot plaster, so.
Yeah, did they find hot plaster or it's assumed hot plaster?
They found some in the reading room, so it's assumed it's in the rest of the building. I was also informed that the floor has asbestos in it in the reading room, flooring material.
Flooring in the reading room, yeah, that's where I would expect, would have mastic or something like that. I mean, it's not 9x9, it's a 12x12, but, oftentimes, they'll test it anyway, because probably any mastic.
And it's in the stacks as well, there are areas with the same material.
So where we're coming through the stacks, I don't think we're going to, other than the plasterwork, I don't think we're going to be disturbing any other material suspicious. If we were doing the whole building, I mean, obviously, window caulking is often, hot. Things like that. You can find, if you were redoing a lot of your electrical work, sometimes the electric wiring has asbestos still in it.
Great
Jacketing and insulation.
So my action item, the report was done in terms of asbestos or any other materials. And then also to get, I'll talk with Cheryl, find out which grant you guys don't have, so you can look at the requirements and stuff to make sure you're hitting all the targets with that.
Correct. And one thing that, relative to the WBE requirements, there was nothing in the ARPA, but the DRI, it is, we should just simply verify, which I'm 90% sure of, but we should still verify as a recipient that those requirements are related specifically to grant dollar, the grant dollar amount. So it's 30% of the 625 or the 650, I forget which was which. It's not 30% of your 1.3 million. I don't know what the library construction fund, because that's a New York State grant too, so that might also have the amount in there. So none of the, when the granting agencies, look at your contracts sometimes, some of the language that they provide in their grant bank makes it sound like it's everything. So you need to sort of go back, and we want to clarify in the bid document that it's related to a specific dollar amount, because otherwise, if they're pushing like crazy to get 30% of 1.3 million, they don't need to do that, and it's a much smaller amount.
Right.
Inflate your costs. We're presuming, I think we already asked this question, but you have to pay prevailing wage on it. So that was another thing that, in our last meeting, we had to set that up. So whether you were going to provide that ability for our spec writer to do it, or you were going to do it yourself, ask for Department of Labor.
Right.
We'll need to do that to be able to pull the rates, because every project has its own number.
Right.
We're not allowed to do it without your permission.
I'm sorry.
For the labor rates that you put in the spec, to get those from the Department of Labor, you have to, you have a project number. But we can't do it on our own. We have to basically get okay, by you.
Anything else? Anything else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can someone move the camera back?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
You don't like looking at it?
Very exciting board.
Thank you.
In the corner.
Exciting. We're done.
It is to see.
Yeah. And then they start, and
I know.
Yeah. Make a difference. Be able to cool, maybe not close off.
It was interesting at Paul's going away party. The mayor said that it was a celebration of the anniversary of the library on one of the hottest days of the year. Paul arranged it just to prove his point that we needed air conditioning.
Speaks for itself.
Thank you. Well, the next thing on our agenda is tax cap, and since we absolutely need to have a vote on this, and Zan's still here, I'm going to go to that absolute next. New York State has a tax cap. We can be pretty certain that our budget is going to go over the tax cap. And it's almost a tradition in the last many years, we have taken this resolution and passed it that allows us to go over said tax cap. So we're going to do that again this year, just so everybody knows it needs not just a majority vote, but a super majority vote. So, I will make the motion. I'm going to ask, you want a second? Or you want to make the motion?
Yes.
You make the motion, I'll second it, or does someone else want to second it?
Why
Who's going to read it?
are you asking who's going to second?
Because I knew you wanted to, and I want to know if someone, please, we're going to write it down in here.
And it does have to be written down, who motioned, who seconded.
So, someone wants the privilege.
I do
I'm
take the
giving them-
minutes.
I'm giving them the right to do that.
I'm happy to second it.
Okay.
On sight unseen and unheard.
So I'll read it out and then we'll take our vote. At a duly called meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Triton Public Library, upon a motion made by Keith Slupsky and seconded by Alex Hands, it was resolved that pursuant to General Municipal Law 3-C5, the Board of Trustees of the Triton Public Library overrides for the 2025 fiscal year the tax levy limit imposed by Municipal Law 3C3. Sounds weird, but okay. That is the motion. We have a second already. Yes, thank you. I just read it. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get this done quickly.
Technicality, can the secretary sign it and you second the motion?
That's a very good technical question.
I'll second it.
Okay. Then Alex can sign. Just change those words. So, do we have any discussion on this?
How much are we roughly exceeding it by?
It's like 15.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
The increase over the previous year is about 15%.
Is that over the budget or over the actual tax cap too? So it's 2% and then we go over.
I think it was, the 15% is in relation to the levy. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
A 15% increase in the tax levy. Is that correct? I mean, I can look it up.
Yes, it's 15%. In terms, yes, it is 15%. Yes,
Over the tax levy.
Currently, I actually made a correction today. Paul finally, I finally figured out how to do the FICA adjustment, and so I did that, but I forgot to go into revenue to make that adjustment so that it's a balanced budget. So you'll notice that I'm off by $5,549. So the amount for tax levy will go up, and then therefore the percentage will go up as well. Apologies. I was stuck on 7.65 because that was the number he said. Now it's 8.5. I said, great, because it was a formula, and the formula was wrong.
No, you're right. So any other discussion? All in favor? Zan?
Aye.
Okay, sorry, I can't see her here that far. So we have, everyone's in favor, all seven.
I have an extra copy. Come on.
Can I see that?
Yeah. It's in the package here, but
Anybody
You
want
want
an
me to
extra copy of the budget?
Are you gonna fill out the rest of it?
Yeah, I know, I just can do this out in case anybody else wants.
Nothing right here. Okay.
And twice.
First, I'm gonna move on to number 5. Because it's also voted on.
Okay.
All right. So because we are also going to, thank you very much, everybody. Because we may be losing this Zan at any moment now, I don't know when she's gonna have to go on stage. Our next item that needs to get a vote is number 5, so I'm breaking my little thing of going on border. So it is the National Weather Service Heat Advisory.
Sure. So I sent out a document today requesting that when we have a heat advisory that comes through either the National Weather Service, the state, the Record Times Union, what have you, the last time around, which was, June 23rd, the week of, we were closed for 3 days. Ultimately, we didn't get ahead with the messaging. We had patrons that were frustrated that they called, we didn't know when we were closing, then all of a sudden we were closing, but we had an hour to close. They would come to the library, it was, they didn't check social media, they didn't call again. We shouldn't make them do all these hoops in order to figure out if we're going to be open or not. That, I wanted to see if the board would be amenable to making a vote, so that way, if there is a heat advisory, that we go ahead and get the messaging out early saying we're going to be closing at noon or 1, like the day before, or like early in the morning, as opposed to sort of waiting to see how the building is doing in terms of heat, what have you. The reason being is that in the morning, it is hot. We open all the windows, the temperature might go down a little bit, but then it starts to keep climbing. I know on the 3rd day in June of that week, it was 90 degrees by 10 a.m. So we could have done better at our messaging to let people know. The other issue is that, of course, people are in the library, they're on the computers, and all of a sudden, again, we have an hour, which is really a half hour for them to get them off the computers, and it just becomes this whirlwind. People, you start getting frustrated and annoyed, they just have to do one more thing. And so to avoid all of that, I think to better serve our patrons, we can communicate better. Anyway, so that's what I'm looking for, is a decision from you guys that it's okay to get the message out early and not sort of wait and see how things are going. Because the first time around was, seek buildings with air conditioning, which of course we don't have. And then this time around, the
notice for today was, hydrate, stay out of the heat sort of thing. That, we knew would begin at 12 noon and then end at about 8 p.m. today, but we found that at 7:30 this morning, the building was already at 87 degrees. So we knew, as the day progressed, it was just going to get worse. So we made the call to just close today. So, sorry, I don't feel like I was as articulate as I meant to be. So I'm just, looking for a decision that we can go ahead and do that without sort of waiting each day and deciding each day if there is a heat advisory.
So like on a day like today when you had a heat advisory, but you really needed to close earlier than noon time.
Right,
How's
so-
that gonna work?
Yeah, like 12:30 this morning, I noticed that there was a heat advisory, so I sent out a note to all the department heads saying, looks like it starts at noon, ends at 8, we'll probably go and close at noon before it really, takes off, so people are going home, at that time. But we do have people that come into the building at about 7 in the morning, and so I got a text at about 7:30 this morning saying it's already 87 degrees, and that was the heat index, not necessarily the temperature.
Right.
So we have sort of a small window that at 85 degrees, we start really monitoring where things are. 85 with a humidity of 43% is not unbearable in the building. 85 with 85 degree, humidity, it becomes unbearable. So we then check the heat index. So between 85 degrees and an 88 degree heat index is where we start to pay attention and then try to make that call to close early.
What are the PESH guidelines, Public Employee Safety and Health? What do their regs say?
So we check OSHA, and so we have this grid, and that's pretty much where we're getting the 85 to 88. So that's what we're going by, or have been.
That's important to be able to explain to the public why we're closing when they're still standing next to a hot oven or working a construction site. So we do have to have traceability of where our numbers are coming from to make that decision.
So what we've been doing for a while, which I'm going to be presenting at the building committee, is we have temperature or thermostats, thermometers, thank you, all over the building, and we've been tracking, on the 3rd floor up in this corner where there's no real air circulation, what's the temperature there, what's the humidity or what have you. So that way we can see what the trend is and then be able to articulate what it is as opposed to saying, gosh, it felt like 90 degrees, and sort of having that perspective. So that not only tells us where the building is, but also on a day where say the temperature might be going down, the building might still be heating up, and then how do we deal with sort of those disparities and stuff? Because it retains heat very well, which is great in the wintertime, not so great in the summertime.
So basically, I'm not sure, Christine, you just want us to give you approval that you can close early based on a heat advisory.
If there's a heat advisory, yes, it's sort of being able to get ahead of it as opposed to waiting to get to 85 or 88 and then deciding and then having to, do all the publicity and get this out. That, for instance, on the week of the 23rd, if we had gotten ahead of it the day before and said there's going to be a heat advisory, we're going to be open only from 9 until noon. Then people would have known, they would have had time to plan. I mean, some people obviously wouldn't have, but the people inside the building, they would have had signage and it wouldn't have been such a scattershot of, what have you. So that's ultimately what I was looking for.
Do we want to do this just for time immemorial, or do we want to go and say from today to November 1, this is the way we do it?
I'm happy for you guys to put a cap on it, what have you. It's your.
I wrote a motion.
You wrote one?
I wrote a motion.
Go for it. Do we need a cap though? I don't know if we really need a cap. I think at a certain point, we're not gonna hit it. I mean, something could happen in the middle of November.
We've had in December Christmas at 70 degrees in the last few years, so,
I'm supportive of this type of a motion. I'd be interested in hearing the exact wording of support. But I think it would be worthwhile for the sunset to be reevaluated after the new cooling system is commissioned
And here
and
we
is
go.
operational.
Yes.
So that's my,
At this point, we could write it, I don't know if you have, written, so it's for the interim director to do this, which gives us a cutoff date anyways. And then when we get a new director, we can maybe go through this process. Again, it's not a policy, we thought it may not be a policy, but an authorization.
which is authorization.
So it's, in its own self, it doesn't change certain things, but it authorizes her to move on this, make that decision. So does that work for you too?
Sure.
Okay, does that work for you?
Not sure on that, I was even looking for it, if that, well, we can go with that.
Okay. Anyone else in? Were you, okay, will you let us?
And I'm happy to take any feedback. I just threw this together. I motion to authorize the interim director, upon notice from a authority.
May I say, how about the national weather, literally going to use? Please, thank you. I need this.
National Weather Service, AccuWeather, and or New York State.
I like that. Yes. Upon notice from the National Weather Service, AccuWeather, and or New York State to proactively decide to close or bridge the hours of the Troy Public Library main branch and communicate such notice to the public
In the event of a heat event.
in the event of such heat advisory
And staff, some of that staff.
and staff. Yes. Public. Thank you. Is that satisfactory?
Okay, you need a motion? Do we have a second?
I second it.
Well,
Everybody. Yeah.
I think I know what the next question's gonna come up with. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
I do wonder if we are just giving this authorization for the interim director, and if we were to hire somebody in a week and a half from now, or if a heat advisor the week after the permanent director is hired, have we then sort of hamstrung the permanent director to explain why we're not closing here? We just did that,
I agree with you on that. Interim or permanent director, if we're gonna do it and reevaluate it once the system's commissioned.
I think the system being commissioned or operational, is a substantial difference in the building and how we might implement policies. And this would give, I think this is not a directive that they have to close. I think gives they may close. And I think that.
I can take an interim. I think it's fine. We can just say director, that gives us flexibility.
And don't forget, we actually have a policy on the books already about that heat indices, so we're not taking that off either. So it still exists.
So we've got a
We do
policy
have a
already.
policy.
It has to wait till it got to that point
Got it.
before we.
Right, this is giving her the,
This is proactive.
Correct. I think I was wondering about that initially, but I think your description described that very well, so I support of that being proactive.
It's getting hotter fast, and we can rewrite the
I would
policy.
include the sunset about the, I offer amendment to this motion to amend it to include a sunset when the new reading room and circulation desk cooling system is operational.
then we have to vote on the amendment.
Understand?
Second amendment.
Discussion about the amendment?
I think it's a good idea. I was thinking that too before you guys brought it up.
On,
So, carry on.
all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Now I can go to a motion.
Let me go backwards. Okay, you made the motion.
Zan,
Three,
everyone
everybody's
seconded.
seconded.
Yeah.
So, all in favor?
Hi.
You have some fun when you break the minutes. I'm not going
Okay.
Functional,
Anything
operational.
else that we, all right. So those are our two first things of voting.
And now we can go backwards. Number 3, the 2025 budget.
So I redid the budget in terms of its look, not really anything else, because in terms of the financial statements that you guys get, I put it in the same order, because I wasn't sure why it was in the order that it was. Anything that was highlighted for 25 were items that you had asked for a change. So for instance, the tax levy would have changed because under salary and fringe benefits, which should just say benefit, I need to change that word, sorry. That the salary went up 20K, therefore the FICA went up, because there's an 8.5% adjustment from the salary, which then would adjust the tax levy, then change the total revenue. The other two items that were changed from Paul were under building maintenance on the next page. You added additional funds. So it was $20,000 for repairs and then $15,000 for building contingency. So then the total facility expense went up. So I was just tracking them so that you guys knew where you were between one version, the next version, the next version. In terms of the notes, I was also showing you where the increase was from 24 to 25. And then all the way to the right, the change like under tax levy when it says 1.8 increase, that's from the last iteration of the budget cycle, because it looks like it's the third draft that you guys are looking at, from my understanding. So anyway, I don't know how useful that might have been to you, but I just thought I would put it in perspective, because you might say, oh my gosh, we did a 8% increase, maybe we're gonna do 4, something like that. Anyway.
That's very helpful.
You're welcome. So, as I mentioned before, I did not increase the tax levy after making adjustments to the salary and FICA. So I was up by $5,549. So in order to have a balanced budget with total revenue equaling total expenses, it should be under line item for tax levy for 25, it should be $1,845,920. And then the total revenue would be, not 1,000, sorry, 1,845,920. And so the total revenue would be 1,963,423. And I can make these corrections and then either put it back in Dropbox for you, send it out, whichever is the preferred method. Okay, that's fine. So, that was all I knew about in terms of the changes. Any additional questions or changes that you guys want to do, I'm happy to make those and then make the adjustments accordingly. Just let you know that at the next meeting in August, that's it for the budget, because it has to be ready to go. So get me everything as soon as possible.
Does this version support the range of salaries for the permanent director?
Yes.
Okay.
And presumably the community engagement specialist
The
position?
community engagement specialist was added in here. I don't have any details for this budget. It was just an overall budget, so I can't get the salary information to you. I know that was a question, so hopefully I can find where the notes are or the what have you, and then pull that together, because I can't tell you in terms of salary what all the breakdowns are.
Yeah,
at this time.
that's totally
So,
fine.
Yeah.
I remember what Paul originally suggested it was, so it seems like it seems like it tracks, so no rush on super specifics, but I appreciate you looking into it.
Yes.
It's based on library, associate library,
Yes, or assistant or
assistant, whatever, there's only this one, and it's one step, it's one, there's not a whole bunch of ads, it's the first step too. So, whatever that was for 2025 is totally the amount. He just never wanted a top number.
There is a document that he showed me with like all of the steps and everything, so it's just a question of.
Which might be the Dropbox. The
my-
salary schedule should be Serena Dropbox.
Okay, so, yeah, so I haven't become totally familiar with Dropbox yet, so next time around, hopefully I can have more details in my cerebral cortex to be able to answer questions.
Thank you.
I will be as efficient and effective as Joy.
It's a high bar.
A tribute to Joy.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other things that they, as they look at the budget, that they want Christiane to play with, change, work with? I always want to say speak now so she can work on it, so for August, otherwise we're not really not gonna have a chance to change anything by then.
So are we comfortable with this increase? Do we feel that the public will agree to it? Christina, you, as the director, will be presenting the rationale for the budget and
Right.
defending it. And I think usually it's in the paper with the director speaking to it. Or,
Right, so ultimately, the more I get familiar with it, the better I'll be able to articulate and defend it. So that's why I want to get the details of everything. So I know as a big picture that we're trying to get the salaries up to a competitive level, so that way we don't have a high turnover, because that just, I mean, we pay all this money to train people and then we have to do it all over again. So we're just, it's very costly. So ultimately, you know, though that's something that I know, but I don't know all the detail of all the other information. So hopefully by the next meeting, if not before, I can, you know.
and there are also increases greater than inflation in some of the other areas as well. I think because Paul felt that they have been unnaturally suppressed and is trying to bring up those areas, you know, like such as materials.
Right. So yeah, materials definitely, if they're going up for, you know, building supplies, they're going up everywhere. So,
Like Ed said, materials are up 10%. That's greater than inflation.
Yes.
But
we also, from previous budget years, since I've been on, had the discussion that our materials budget had been a bill payer, that better practice would have been a greater percentage of the budget going into materials, but there were other constraints at play, and we're just trying to catch back up to good practice.
so, sorry. Yes.
Hey guys, sorry, I have to head off. Great to see you. So sorry I can't be there. Finish.
What
Thank
is
you.
it? Break a leg, have
Break a
fun.
leg.
Thanks, bye.
So just for clarity's sake, materials are not supplies, a completely different animal. So materials are books, they're, you know, digital content and everything. So digital content will be going up the more that people, you know, want to view it, the more we have to purchase it. At some point, maybe, you know, hard copy things may not be going up as much as say digital. And, you know, there's a tipping point at some point. I don't know what that is. Some people I'm sure do, you know, in the industry. But I just wanted to clarify
I
that.
had more people asking me about digital than about books.
Because we have, you know, the tool Hoopla, which is limited to 5 items per month for patrons. The reason we do that is because we're paying per usage, and it's a way for us to control it. So that way we don't have unlimited, and then all of a sudden we've exceeded our budget in 3 months, and, you know, things like that. So that's going to fall under materials and other things. So.
and I think because you have so many different kinds of media, it has also increased the cost. Over when you had just a hard copy book, now you have a hard copy book, ebooks, audiobooks, videos, whatever, but so the CD, whatever, but yeah, because it's in so many different formats,
Right.
it increases the expenses as well.
Exactly, but again, it's providing that access to our patrons, so it's worth it. You know,
Yeah, and the other thing is, unlike some of those other large libraries in our system, we are a multi-branch library. And there are certain costs for materials that do have to show the fact that we have 2 service points,
Right.
unlike some of the other big boys in the system.
So one of the things we do, when we get like travel guides, we'll get the 25 travel guide and the 24 then goes to Lansingburg. So we save on cost that way. Obviously we're reprocessing it, so that's time, human resource time that happens with that. But so we do as much as we can, within the confines of everything. But yes, it does help that we have 2 branches, what happened to serve a broader community.
Certainly, materials are part of our core mission.
Absolutely.
That's a library.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna argue with that one.
I have a friend who lives in 2 locations, and he was talking about the library in the other location. So I looked it up. The population was about 35,000, less than ours. The budget was about 3 times what ours was.
Bethlehem, the other one.
Yeah, if you want, I could certainly do an analysis of where we are in comparison to some libraries that are similar to us in Upper Hudson Library System. Have
Check
you already
the
done
back
that?
of the annual report,
Yes.
because Jonathan has pretty much gotten all those stats, and it's not there. Yes, she has it, and she probably will.
Right, exactly. So ultimately, we can see where we are in comparison to it, which, will give us some perspective.
We have a request for a comment from Brenda, so.
Because in the past, the materials budget sometimes has been rated to cover other costs. The Friends have supplemented the materials budget over the years, designating sometimes special collections or that money that we give to the library to be specifically for materials.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't need you to do that comparison, but I'm more concerned about the public. And,
In terms of justifying,
the budget.
gotcha.
Information that we've used to promote the increase.
And one of the things we can show is an increase in things like circulation. That, okay, is getting used more and more.
So the tricky bit with circulation is obviously we had COVID and we just this year started getting back to levels. So that's a tricky one. But what we can do is show 2 years ago with programming, we were at a certain level and now we do about 16 programs a month on average at the main branch. And that includes the take and make kits, but then also it's everything else that we pulled together. And of course, then we have Lansingburg that's now back and they're getting their programming back together. So that's a specific thing that some people can get their minds around too.
And Paul has been using, not going back to 2019, he's been doing it to with last year.
Yes, exactly. But I know that when I started at end of January, it was either the February or March meeting, he had mentioned was circulation stats that we were just getting back to where we were. So it's still new. So.
And the indication that at some point we're getting even better than we were in those numbers. I think it's programs. Anything else on the 2025 budget?
So I would say if anybody does have a recommendation or a thought or what have you, make sure to include everybody else on the board when you're sending the email out, and then that way I can respond to everybody on the board. Transparency.
I appreciate that.
And I know that we don't currently have a controller in the city of Troy.
Yes, we do.
Yes, I know. And I'll usually ask the controller to find out from what the actual percentage increase would be when you consider whether the tax base is increased. I can probably do those figures.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so we actually.
And from there, we work out to the standards bid, how many dollars more on a $150,000 assessed valuation, the average house.
Yeah, that was always the average. The previous. What do you use and it worked?
Yeah, love for that one.
Yeah, what is the average house?
I think it's the average tax assessment?
No, the average assessed or fair market value.
No, fair market value assessment, two different things.
We're doing fair market or just the assessment?
I think he did an assessment.
The assessed value.
Because the average house in Troy is assessed at around like $135,000.
Andy's formulas is 150. And they come up with numbers. And sometimes we go and go like talk, so we went through the each everything is for it's fine. I don't know how he did it. It seemed like he did it in his head. Okay, so moving on. Next thing is the election, which is the logical next piece of that budget piece. We'll be presenting our budget to the public for that vote. We'll be presenting our candidates for the trustees, for the board of trustees. Just to remind everybody, the election is Tuesday, September 24th from 12 to 8 at the Main and Lansingburg branch. The election will be held in the bookseller. At the Lansingburg branch, the store itself will be closed. Voters will be afforded a confidential space to fill out their ballots. They're set up so they'll go down the aisles. And we thank Lori Dreyer for that suggestion. Tuesday, September 10th at 7 p.m. is our budget presentation and meet the candidates at Maine. And just as also an addendum to that, due to a previously scheduled program at Maine, the budget presentation, etc., will be held in the reading room. The reading room will be closed to all their public functions. And our previous location for the art gallery has been reserved for September 9th, 2025 at 7 p.m. So we're done with that already, just in case. And on Tuesday, September 17th at 7 p.m., budget presentation, meet the candidates night will be here at Lansingburg. Those are finite dates so far.
What was the first meet the candidates date?
The first one is September 10th at Maine.
Thank you.
Yep. And I can send it out again as another email if you want.
What is the nine?
That's next year, that's 2025.
Yes.
Yep. 2025. That one we don't have to move it anywhere. Go back for old game. It's kind of funny negotiating this.
And I'm sorry, the election's on Tuesday, 24th of
September.
Give everybody a good election.
there we go. Thank you.
And the League of Women Voters is
That's the wrong
again. Have you been talking to Mr. Mueller? Excellent. So the League is going to be taking care of our election again. Mr. Mueller is this piece. I'll put it that way. Very detailed oriented.
So notification has gone out to the papers. I believe Paul is still in contact, so I'm going to go and make a change for that. His email address does have an admin email address that we're using to put anything for the future director. So I have access to my own in that one. And anyway, so just checking for different information. Joy was gracious enough to give me the checklist for doing the election stuff, and I believe you sent me something as well, possibly. So,
Oh, today?
yes.
Oh, yes, I did.
Yes.
I kind of teach.
It's okay. So, my understanding is that really everything sort of moves forward on or around August 1st. So we're, a little bit ahead of the game this time around. And I will do my best to organize it as it always has been. So as I learn it, I will get it together.
Were we trying to be sooner than August 1st as far as letting people know about that we're seeking candidates for the board?
Right, well, that's why it's in the paper, I think. So it was in the record.
But are we going to put it on like our website?
We are going to put it on the
social media,
website,
all
yeah.
that before August 1st, because that doesn't give people very much time. And that's what people have complained about.
Oh, okay, yeah, so I told Joy that I would read through or what have you, and then we'll connect once the board meeting was over and then start putting things in place. So we can certainly do it before August 1st.
Because we definitely had some people who were not having that. Sure. Not that they didn't have enough time.
Right.
They felt to make a decision and then get signatures.
But yeah, I mentioned her that we need to look at the page and make any edits with dates and things like that. So I know that Paul provided me with the, it's not called a warrant, it's called something, I forget what it's called, but anyway, so the document that they have the signatures and all that, right?
Oh, the petitions?
Petition, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Okay, so I am breaking down the report. I realize I only submitted it today. Normally I will get it to you much sooner than this. So going with Upper Hudson, the Directors Association has a meeting tomorrow. It'll be my first meeting in a long time with these folks. And we're just going to be talking about the Schenectady County Public Library. If there's anything of import that affects us in any way, I will be sure to communicate with all of you and to let you know. There's no formal agenda. That is really the only item. So I'm not sure where things are at this point. Going to buildings, Northeast Mobility, which you were talking about, Freda, or asking about, has moved the ramp construction date to July 24th, beginning at 9 a.m. due to some permitting delay. So Lori informed me of that, and she'll be here on that day to let them in, so on and so forth. In regards to Troy, the parapets are complete, the scaffolding is on its way down.
Since we're paying for that, we need to know when Northeast Mobility bills the library.
Okay.
We have to write it.
Yes, I figured once we got the bill, we would just hand it over to you. Yeah. Okay. So as I said, the scaffolding is coming down. One of the things, and I had contacted Kirsten while he was climbing the Alps or something outrageous. So we had a new leak that was in the, what is it, northwest corner. So it's the back storage area in the art gallery, formerly known as now the Paul Hickok Program Room. And so plaster was coming down, similar to what had happened in the reading room with the last big snowstorm, but at a much smaller scale. And so I just wasn't sure if it had asbestos or not. What did we do? Oh my gosh, what have you? So some staff went in and cleaned up the area, which I didn't realize we were going in there. But the roofing guys who were working on the parapet had noticed something on the roof. I don't know. I didn't get the details from Paul, and they fixed it and then came inside and they cleaned up the area as well. So hopefully they wore masks or gloves or whatever it is that one does when dealing with that. Anyway, in terms of the roofing itself, the request for proposal has gone out to bid. I did go up on the roof. I'm afraid of heights. It was amazing and scary, and I hope I never do it again. And basically, there was a group trying to get a quote together. A couple of things were mentioned. One at Paul's going away party or retirement party, that when we talked with Lisa, yes, thank you, from TAP, that perhaps we should see about trying to get the roof done this year. And so my understanding is that that communication communication is gonna go to those who bid for the job. And so I mentioned that to the roofing folks, and they said, that's not a problem, we use union, and if we can't get these guys, we go to these guys, we go to these guys, and we can get it done. I don't know what company it was, I can't give you any more information, but there was something else about that. So it didn't seem like it would be an issue, but we'll have to see. So it could be that we don't go for the lowest bid, that we go for the group that can do it, if that's the direction that you guys want to go in. I did notice that the northeast corner had some water that was pooled in that corner, which I don't know if that's connected to some of the dripping that we've had or not. So I'm gonna now I just found a business card, so I'm gonna be contacting a group to come in and see if they can snake that and see about getting water to continue its way down. Anyway, one of the things that was mentioned by the roofing folks is that they didn't know if the roof was made of cement or not. And if it is, then the rubber roofing material isn't supposed to be adhered to it. But there were some points in the rubber where it was adhered to the roof. So, they mentioned that because of that, there might be a little bit of a delay or an extension in terms of doing the bid, which I believe they had to get the information in by tomorrow or Wednesday. So tomorrow. So I haven't heard anything. I don't know if that's going to delay a little bit or not, but just if they have questions, like, yeah, down a little bit.
Bids are due tomorrow?
What's that?
Bids are due tomorrow?
That was my understanding from the roofing folks that were up when I went up with them. And there was another crew that came yesterday. I never saw them and they left. They didn't say goodbye. So I don't know, because Paul had reached out to Tecta America to come and look at the roof. I don't know if it was them coming to look at the roof or whether it was another group that was bidding for the roof job. So I don't have any.
And TAP is coordinating all the, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, I guess Tecta America WeatherGuard. So I guess our roofing is WeatherGuard material. Any questions about the roof and stuff? Yes?
The first item you mentioned about the parapet work and the plaster that came down, I assume the architect of record was contacted on that, they're aware?
I have no idea. So this was under Paul's domain, and so I don't know all the details of everything.
You might want to check with them and see if they have any recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, obviously Taylor, Riley, and Wilson just presented on the HVAC system, so I don't have to go over that. Season 3 of the Gilded Age will be happening, got approved, and so there's going to be filming for a couple of hours on August 6th in front of our building on 2nd Street, or close by. So they're going to be doing a contract. I'm happy to look it over and move ahead and have them do what they do in Troy and elsewhere. I believe most of the filming this year is going to be in Schenectady and somewhere else. One of the things that they did ask for was a place for their actors dressed up in costume, their makeup people, and other residual folks to have a place to cool down in the event that it might be hot. So I know exactly. So they're coming tomorrow to look at our reading room and possibly our program room. And so they did say something about possibly getting air conditioning units. So I'm not sure what kind of units and whatever they're talking about. But anyway, so I'm willing to.
If they're using portable air conditioning units, are they electric units?
I don't know. So they wanted to look at the windows in the program room because obviously they're tall and I don't.
They had previously worked in the reading room. And I believe what they brought trailer mounted units ducted. And if I remember correctly, they run those off their own generators.
Okay.
And we got, when they filmed in the reading room the last time, they left it far cleaner than when they took it, and it had redone the floor.
Yeah.
So this is good.
Well, this is all going to be exterior work, so
If they want to come in, if they want to come inside, have a standard of care that they've displayed.
They tend to do that so that people don't get it on their nose. Anyway, they're gonna start setting up on August 1st, filming on the 6th, and then they will have everything removed by the 7th of August, so it's a very short window. Yeah. I listed the building grants for the moment. I only know about the HVAC system. So obviously we've got a library construction grant, an ARPA grant, and then the DRI grant. So I was just listing the information here so that you guys would have it all in one place in the event that you had any questions. I just got access to the library construction grant portal today, so I haven't had time to go in and see what other grants are there. Are there any reports that need to be done or what have you? So I plan on getting that information together for the next building committee, because it seems to me that building and grants go well together, and then once it's a document that is useful for the board, present it to the finance committee next time so that they have an idea of grants and so. Any questions about grants?
Just, it would be a good idea to know how much it's for.
Sorry?
To know how much the library construction grant is for.
Yes. Yeah, so I put on here that the library construction grant, I don't know exactly how much it is, but when I looked at the folder for HVAC, the ARPA grant was $650,000, the DRI was $625,000, and then it said the library would provide $25,000. So I don't want to assume that's the library construction grant.
No, that 25,000 is McCarthy, so that they would, and I think that they already provided the money.
Okay, all right. So I didn't have all the detail, so I'm gonna, make sure that the folder has all the pieces and parts in it. My understanding is, at least with DRI, there was some changes that the state was going to be doing, so we don't have a contract yet, so it's not signed. So now that I have the folder, I have contact information, so I'm going to start looking into where we are, what we can do to move things along.
Project said there were negotiations going on about changes to the contract,
Right.
and that change has been recommended,
Right.
I believe, by Paul to the state, and he was waiting for responses back. But what those changes were,
Yeah, there wasn't a specific letter or anything like that with changes, so, anyway. So at least this is a basis, or basic, starting place, and then once I have more information, I'll be adding it to the director's report.
am I correct that there are multiple library construction grants over multiple years?
Yes, yes. Yeah, they're open for up to 6 years, and so every 2 years there's a report for each one. Gives you the opportunity, like say for Lansingburg is being submitted for the next grant cycle, but what if a major donor comes in and pays for everything, then the state gives the opportunity to then move the money elsewhere, so it's a wonderful thing, lots of paperwork. Anyway, so once I'm in, I'll be able to pull together a document that states just all the library construction grants and where they are in terms of the process, so that way we don't miss a reporting cycle.
And also the request for the next one.
Right. Oh, and yeah. So in terms of the request for the next one, I got an email from Paul with, I believe, all the quotes. So now I can go into the tool, add up all the money, because right now it just says 0 because there weren't any quotes, and then pull that together. And then when it's ready to be looked at by you and approved to move forward, then it'll go to Upper Hudson and DFE, the regular process.
So this is July. Numbers that are always see requests with some of the quotes needs to be in the horizon by August, so it's going to be before our board meeting here.
Oh,
But we've already approved
moving ahead.
we've given Paul, you, the authorization to go ahead with it. So I don't think we need to worry about having our secondary approval of it, because otherwise we'll miss the deadline.
Yeah.
But let us know, because in August they'll do negotiation.
Right. Okay.
You know that.
Yeah.
So things might change depending on what, Hudson's board, and then it will be voted on it.
I think you're
Great, thank you for that. I know that it was brought up, sorry, moving on to staff, unless anybody has any other grant questions. Moving on to staff, I understand that the board wanted to get a sense of incident reports happening at the library. I didn't reach out to Lori Dreyer in time to find out if there was anything with Lansing first, so going forward, I'll be making sure that I have all of that together. But for the year so far, we've had about 50 incidents at the main branch. And in terms of any contact with the police department, we've had 6 out of 50, so that's about 8%. The situations were a variety of things. Somebody had something stolen. There's a gentleman that comes in periodically to, wants his civil liberties acknowledged. Somebody threatened library staff. I didn't lock the door properly in my first time locking the building. I checked it, I swear, and yesterday somebody walked in, realized the lights were out, and walked back out, so of course the alarm went off. Anyway, so, just these things happen, but luckily it was an okay thing. So the police were, the system worked, the police were notified, they went through the building and everything, and then once we looked at the cameras, we realized that
You've been hazed.
I have been hazed. So anyway, I'm no longer a newbie, I'm fully seasoned and live my public library. I know.
The same thing happened in this building with the previous director, so I don't feel bad.
Okay, I was just like, but anyway, so now I'm like double, triple checking the door. So anyway, so I don't know if there was anything else in terms of the incidents that you guys might be looking for, but certainly going forward, I think if there's something like, say, a staff person being threatened, or somebody challenging the library or something, that I'm just going to send an email out to you that's, by the way, today this happened. So that way it's a little bit more immediate and not waiting until the next board meeting kind of thing. And if that works for you, that works for me.
I know I really appreciate that. I don't like being surprised by things like that, so
Right.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, because I know a lot of you have friends that work at the library, and then you hear things, and then it might sort of seem weird that you haven't been contacted or informed that something may have happened at the library. So we'll do the best we can. The other thing in regards to the staff is I'm going to put out a suggestion box. It seemed like a good opportunity to get feedback from the staff just in general stuff, because sometimes it might be difficult to go to your manager for whatever reason you think it might be just a silly thing. But anyway, so in order to sort of maintain morale, be connected with a lot of staff members, because for me, I don't always see some of the people that work on the weekends, although I have been working on weekends, but now it won't be, so I just want to make sure that they feel included and have an opportunity to, give feedback and have it read.
I really like that. That's a great idea.
Point of clarification. Thank you for offering to keep us informed, keep us posted as incidents occur. I wasn't sure exactly whether you were offering to contact us at every instance that something happens, or only when there are incidents that require, say, a higher level of interaction from the police.
Yeah, definitely if the police are contacted, I will let you know. That's sort of like a given. It'll depend on the situation. I'm not going to tell you that somebody was in the bathroom for longer than they should have been in the bathroom, things like that.
So 50 incidents that we want to hear, 50 emails so far this year.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So I will make sure that it's something that either affected the staff in some way, or, it could be possibly that we might be noticing a trend, things like that. But ultimately, definitely when the police are contacted.
Thank you. The trends, maybe that would be, I think, if there are trends you're starting to notice, I think the monthly report probably would be adequate for me, I think.
Yeah. I also, going on to, unless anybody else has any questions about staffing or incident reports or anything. I just listed here some of our ad hoc programs that we're doing. We have our regular monthly programs, and just wanted to let you know. And obviously, these come to our programs to help with our statistics and all that with the state. And then rolling into the statistics, I found out from, just by being an interim director, that obviously circulation provides statistics, or the reference department, adult services provides statistics, young people services provide statistics, and they were going to Paul, and I think that's as far as they went. So I wasn't able to gather them all together in a timely fashion. So going forward, I will make sure to provide you with, some idea of how things are trending. We won't necessarily compare year to year, but at least throughout each month, how things might be, trending in some way or other, and then trying to highlight for you some, important bits of information so that you know where things are in the grand scheme of things. So I will be doing that. And I would say, in closing, please sign up for summer reading if you haven't already. We have some really cool stuff going on. And as I said before, it does help again with our statistics, and our statistics to the state helps with our funding.
Yes, I was asking whether we could be, I didn't know whether we could actually be in the raffles or not, because.
Yeah, everybody is allowed to participate in everything, and if you didn't feel like doing the raffle, that's fine, read, and then you can get a stemless wine glass with the, Troy logo on it, so there's a variety of different things.
That's what I want. I just wanted to wait.
And thank you for the improvements and the clarity and the comprehensiveness of the director's report.
You're welcome. And if there's anything I'm missing, obviously let me know. This is a work in progress, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Too much?
No, it's great.
Thank you.
This place sends in, their own stats too.
Lansingburg sends in their own stats. Yes, sorry about that point. So their reference stats go to adult services, their young people stats go into YPS, and their search stats go into the circulation. So it is part of all that. So they don't have a separate report. It says it for one library.
It is my belief that someone here, Amos does put together a report. And so
Yes.
like, where do they put, let's say, use, if someone brings their own laptop, because it's not in one of the.
That's Wi-Fi. So that's Wi-Fi usage. So that would be under adult services.
Any questions, any other comments, anything about the director's report?
You answered every question I could possibly been asked, so.
Old and new business. I know you have something that you want to share.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody had anything else first. Cool, yeah, new business. I just wanted to provide kind of just like a public update on what's going on with the search for the new director. First things first, I distributed the feedback from the staff from the survey that we sent out back in June. My apologies to the staff for the delay in that. And I distributed that to everybody yesterday. Hopefully you got it. Hopefully you had a chance to read it. I thought the feedback was actually excellent. I think we got a lot of good comments, and there were things that I hadn't even considered that I thought were valuable. And it was nice to hear from a double-digit percentage of our staff. So thank you. Just want to say that as of July 9th, last time I checked our email portal for applications, we have received 4 applications. I plan to review them at our next director search committee meeting, which is scheduled for the 11th of July.
My goodness. When you put that, I was like, oh my goodness,
Yes.
I can't. It threw me off.
My apologies, not tomorrow.
That's okay, I just panicked.
I'm interested in increasing the number of applicants that we're getting. How to be discussed with the committee at large. I thought it'd be valuable to say who's actually on the committee. It's myself, Sam, who's not on the call, Evelyn, Marie, I think everyone technically is on it.
At one point, you said you only wanted to be in when we do our final candidates. Do you want in on the committee now, or?
You have come to all the meetings.
Yeah. I just want to make sure if you're going to do it, you're officially. Okay.
So the search committee is essentially comprised of the entirety of the board, just for clarity's sake. I don't want to say it doesn't really matter. This doesn't work. I'm pretty much the only one checking the email. That's fine. It's not exactly a heavy lift. Yeah.
Thank you for doing it.
Of course.
Setting it up, checking it. It's good.
I had one other thing. For us, some feedback that we actually got from the staff was they were curious if anyone outside of Carolyn Fagan had actually interviewed anybody in the past. I just want to say for the record, like Jenny, that was part of the feedback. If and when you read it, I just want to say for the record that I spent all last week interviewing people for scientists and managerial positions in my work, and that was about 12 people. In my experience in my career so far, I've interviewed probably about 150 people. I enjoy interviewing people. I know Zan, in her line of work, has interviewed people before. I believe Evelyn, you too may have interviewed people.
I've even interviewed directors, people for director positions.
Very nice. Glad to hear that. I'm not sure if anyone else there.
I've recruited, interviewed, hired, and fired.
So there we go. I think we're well suited to the task. And yeah, that's the only, sorry, question?
I just had a question in regards to the feedback through the survey.
Yes.
Are you also going to incorporate the listening sessions into that, or is that sort of like a completely different thing?
Slightly separate right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I would, if you have a digest of that, because I unfortunately couldn't make it that entire week. My car broke down quite rudely. Evelyn called me when I was lying in the street.
They rarely schedule that.
They really don't. It's very unfortunate. I always have somewhere to go. I have multiple stories of that, but I digress. Yes. Ideally, yes, I would like to incorporate feedback that you personally have received. I know we're in the process of scheduling at least one event for folks who work at Lansingburg. Since we were unable to get here last week.
And a few during the daytime.
Yes, we will have to schedule that just to make sure people are available to actually be there. Cars are working.
Library's open?
Library's open.
It's not a holiday?
So we'll be in touch with you, Joy, once we have an idea of when we want to do that. But I think that covers everything that I had heard people are interested in hearing about. I look forward to I look forward to going through the applications we already have in on Thursday, getting people's opinions and feedback on that. We're going to discuss primarily how we're going to evaluate the candidates, how we're going to evaluate them, should we choose to interview them. We're also planning on discussing the nature of how we are going to conduct like an in-person meet and greet with the board, the staff. Should we want to advance a candidate to a final round of interviews, say. So we have a lot of the agenda for the 11th. That is all I have about looking for a permanent director.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Are they local or not?
So far, all of the candidates we've received have been applicants from New York State. I was going to print off a couple copies of all the material we received to distribute physically for review on Thursday.
Any other questions? What's enough?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Any other old new business? Okay, community feedback.
Oh, you've gotten a lot. So I was asked primarily when we would be soliciting petitions for the director, tentatively sometime this month. It seems like we're going to make an announcement that people can stop in. I've been the recipient of some dismay about the closing of the library because of how hot it is, and from residents who've been here for a couple decades, how long this has been going on and why it's still a problem. So I'm glad that I now have a more kind of comprehensive idea of the timeline for the HVAC system going in. That was a fun conversation. Yeah, that's it actually. A lot of repeats the past month. My neighbors love the library too, so.
I did go to the animal thing, the birds. It was excellent. The children's program. They were happy Sunday week.
What was that?
The birds, they kick off to the summer reading.
Birds of Prey.
The Birds of Prey. It was excellent. It was really well attended.
I've heard people talk about it too.
Yes.
Exactly. Anybody else have any other?
I've been asked by a number of people what the status is of getting restitution from the insurance company for fencing. And whether the library has in fact decided to sue the insurance company for not paying. You're probably not going to answer me, which is very frustrating. You can't be a conduit for community feedback if you can't feed it back.
Part of the problem, Fred, is we just had a transition, and some of these things were in Paul's inbox, and now we have someone here who's trying to get through his inbox and find out where things stand, connect to all the people that Paul's been talking to, because we were the last to know sometimes too. So right now, we need all.
So it's helpful, I'm interrupting you, but it's helpful to get that, okay? To get that, but to say things in community feedback and to get nothing is very frustrating.
Well, part of the community feedback is to talk about what we've heard out there in the public and share. But you have to understand too, and you kind of know this at the board table, we don't have a conversation all the time with people having in the community. We listen and we deal with it after the fact. And that may be part of your frustration, but that is the way we are supposed to be behaving. And we do have certain allowances for special people, for staff members, for example, special members of the Friends. We didn't actually put it in as a motion ever. We couldn't. It was failed. But we tried to do that and allow Friends to speak. But it's very difficult for us to follow a process and procedure and do that, and especially when you don't always have the information, and we're still working on trying to pull that all together.
Well, I think we should reconsider it because the Friends occupy a particular position vis-a-vis the library. And because we're out there a lot in the public, we hear stuff a lot, and we get stuff in our email kinds of things. And though it's helpful to know when information is classified or not for public consumption, but sometimes there's a space between what is not for public consumption and an ability of the Friends to represent the library and to represent the community. And so
Some information's not known.
knowing that it's unknown is a good feedback, you know. Evelyn's saying that some of this stuff now is in flux is a helpful piece of information. But it is, you know, and I've brought this up before, how frustrating it is to sit in this meeting and be allowed to talk at the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes. And given the role that we play. And so you don't have to discuss it now, but I hope that somehow you rethink about what role the Friends play vis-a-vis the trustees, particularly since we are bearing so much of the responsibility for raising money.
And we acknowledge it, and we thank you.
I don't want thanks. I want a reconsideration of our role vis-a-vis the.
We tried that some years ago, if you remember. And two, again, we're trying, we do have you speak during the meetings. This is not the first time.
The last time I spoke at the meeting, you shushed me.
Well,
I was so insulted.
I am sorry for that.
I'm so, you know, just.
I also require to follow some of the processes and procedures of the board too. And you have to understand that. And you're not the only one, and it's making sure that it's not just you sometimes, but other people also think that it's an open session, and it's not. It's, we treat us like a.
I know.
It is, and it's part of our exact
But
policy.
yes, but policy, you change policy all the time.
It's not a policy, it's a law, it's a state law. Open meeting law is a state requirement. So it's not a
Yes,
policy.
yes, yeah, open meeting law means that all meetings have to be open to the public. But what role the public plays vis-a-vis the open meeting law is, you know, I'm sorry to spend time, your time doing this. Each of you know that I've been really frustrated by the fact that I'm coming to this meeting and there are times when I can be helpful. I don't need to participate in decisions. But sometimes, because I hear things, because members hear things, because of our increased involvement in the library, the Friends have changed over the last, whatever, 7 years. The role of the Friends has changed. And the requirements that the library has put on us has changed. And so what I'm asking is for you, and I believe, for you to reconsider whether there's an agenda item maybe for the Friends, or there's something that allows the Friends to give feedback, to give information, to get feedback. That it be a time when it can be an interactive discussion, not where, I say something and you guys try not to smile or frown at me, whatever. But I get more than that. So, anyway, you don't have to discuss it now, but I think, that I got increasingly frustrated. And, it has its consequences.
And again, I'm very sorry to feel insulted. I hope you understand there's certain things that you'll not be wrong.
I've been facilitating meetings for 25 years. That's been my occupation.
So perhaps the board meeting is not the correct venue, that there might be some other.
One of the ways that got mitigated, which has been very helpful, is our involvement in the outreach committee. So one of the things that happened is that when I came last year and talked to you all about the fact that we didn't want to be alone fundraising for the library, the fundraising part of the board's responsibility got, in some ways, got delegated to the outreach committee. And the outreach committee has been helpful. And it's been a reciprocal kind of a thing. But there has been, it's an example of how the trustees and the Friends can work together. So I think that's, and I want to take it a long time, but that was a good decision. That was a very good decision. But it goes beyond fundraising, and that's the piece of.
We're all doing advocacy work basically on multiple levels, so yeah, absolutely.
So do we have anyone else have community feedback? I got one thing. So I did the farmer's market last Saturday. Oh, it was fun. I kind of missed doing it, so I'm gonna go back.
A little steamy.
Just a touch.
A little bit.
Really a touch. It was funny, we talked about, we had people signing up for library cards. We had people interested in what's going on in the library. We had a lot of people taking flyers and material and talking about the library being extremely supportive. And yes, several of the families really liked the Birds of Prey program and mentioned that.
It was well attended.
So that was fun. Okay. So no more, okay.
Friends, about going back to the farmer's market with a pop-up on the 27th.
The 27th.
And it's probably best if we do not do the same week as the regular tables. Public comment. Does anyone have any public comment? They're all gone? It's just a big blur.
I'm here, but I have nothing.
You do?
She's nothing.
You got
I-
nothing?
Thank you, Lori, for being here.
You're a trooper. Anything else? Okay. So date of our next meeting is August 13th, 2024, 5 o'clock for finance, 5:30 for our regular meeting. And is there any last thoughts, comments before we go to adjournment?
I enjoyed my first meeting. No one's shocked me yet.
Thank you for being here.
There was a legal challenge to New York State's ban on plate carrier vests, so get one while you can, so. Otherwise, we can keep knocking on wood. I'm just joking.
So, on that note, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So many seconds. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
So off topic, just to let you know, this week I'm moving into Paul's office, so if there's anything you guys need, you want to find me in the basement, whatever.